Hey, I am so happy you're here today. I have a little day in the life to share with you and just what our day looks like on a weekend for us today and the different things we do to enjoy the moments and still a full day of cooking involved. So grab some coffee. I have mine right here for a hot cup of tea. I've got my candle going, my beeswax candle, and join me for a little fun, just chatting about our days and the homemaking life. I am starting off this morning just before everyone gets up. I usually start my days around 5:30, sometimes a little bit earlier. It's just my me time. I love being the first one up, getting things started, and just feeling like I can get a little bit of a head start on the day and just in a quiet manner. I'm getting some turmeric hot chocolate going. It just sounded delightful today, and it's a great little starter to my morning before I can kind of get breakfast going, just get a little something on my stomach, get my metabolism going, and it's quite delicious, especially as things are getting a little colder around here. I start my Bible app so I can just listen to scripture while I cook and get things ready and going for the morning. And I was recently listening to another video of a gal that has many children, and she was talking about how her grocery pickup was her me time and how pathetic that was. And I would have to disagree. I know it may on the outside seem pathetic, but I think it's actually really wise to take those different times to appreciate some quiet and some rest, because as mamas and homemakers in general, I just stay really busy. It's not really a job where you can ever clock out. But when you love your job and you allow yourself time to rest and take those moments that you can pretty much almost get daily, I think there's always a few little moments you can take just to take a moment to rest and think about what you're grateful for and maybe say a little prayer to get you through the day. And those can be really rejuvenating and refreshing. I have tried to be intentional about taking those times just to talk to the Lord and get a little encouragement from Him and to remember the things that I do have the opportunity to do, like being a homemaker, because that's always been my dream, and I get to live that dream out day in and day out. And there is scripture, Genesis 2:15, it talks about Adam and Eve being given the work to keep up with in the garden, and this was in the perfect world before the fall of sin. So work is a good thing. It gives us purpose, and you can really get some good joy from it. So that is how I try to look at busy days like this. Now, my husband has a little bit different schedule than most people. Our weekends fall on different days than your traditional Saturday and Sunday. So this is a weekend day for us. And I do sleep in a little bit. I usually get up around 7:20-ish on the days that he's off, just to kind of give myself a little extra rest too. So I am getting things started, but it's not that late. I believe it's like 7:30 right now, but the whole house we're not early risers. So that is a blessing, because I know there are some times during little baby world where you do have to adjust, and I don't always get these times to myself because I'll have little baby waking up at 5:30 to be fed. So we are out of a little bit of that stage, so I am just enjoying this time and getting that extra time. So today we are going to have an apple baked oatmeal. And I've made this recipe several different times now. It's one of our favorites. So I'll make sure to put the link down in the description. But you can do it so many different ways. We kind of use this as a base recipe, and just depending on what fruit we have on hand, we'll change the different flavorings. The other day we did a pumpkin version of this, which is my absolute favorite. I wish I'd had pumpkin puree to do that because it was so good, and a lot more kind of fluffy, I guess. Whereas this one, to me, the moisture just wasn't fully there. It tasted great, and it did set up more than it did that I'll show you because it's still hot and everything. So if you let it set, it does still set up fine and work great, and my kids loved it. We loved it. But that pumpkin one was to die for. But we did the pumpkin the other day, apple today, and they were great. So I've been trying to keep a lot of apples on hand because they're in season. I've been trying to be more intentional about using in-season produce and just paying attention to the fact that really does make a difference in your grocery bill. And I feel like that's one area where we can really save on our groceries while still eating healthy, whole foods. It's sometimes a bit of a change when you go from eating some processed foods or some quick convenience foods, or just some of the things we're used to before maybe adapting to the whole scratch cooking life, because some things can be more expensive. And to me, it's completely worth the cost if you're able to do that, because it's a lot more nutritious and you know what's in your food. So that's a really important thing. And if you're able to on your budget, I think it's well worth it. But that is a way to save while you're still getting all that good nutrition in you. It's just, I've watched as the prices have gone down on things like acorn squash or apples and carrots and the different things that are in season just slowly drop just a little bit, which seems like an impossibility with all the inflation right now. But it really does happen. So pay attention to what's in season in your area and you'll start watching those prices go down. So good tip for you. So I love, after I kind of get things situated and the sun starts coming out, to just open up all the blinds and start opening up the house. And I'm just going to go out and deal with the chickens this morning. This is actually some of my me time as well. I love it. This is our first year having chickens and everything that entails. So I had a very sweet husband that was willing to make a chicken coop out of, what we had and what we could get. And it's pretty scrappy, but it's done just fine. I would love to make it a fun color at some point because it's kind of dark and dreary right now. But you know what? It works. And we have the intention of being homesteaders someday. We would love to do that. So part of that is, not everything looks picture perfect. You're just trying to do your best with what you got. And I am starting to see all of the colors changing. It's one of my favorite. I'm just enjoying all that's in our yard. And, it is just a small backyard. We're blessed with what we have, but it is just small. We have a very tiny, tiny little garden. I found this tomato here, and we are getting a frost in just a few days. We've already had that by the time this video comes out. So I just want to enjoy every last little bit of that before everything starts changing. And there's different perks to winter for sure, but just enjoying the last bit of the little summer. We go into fall. I love opening the plant in the morning, just letting in that sunlight. Feels like we can really start our day when all of that happens, and I just feel like we're ready for when everybody comes down. In the morning, I do like to take a few minutes just to kind of look over the meal plan for the week. Sometimes that is really non-existent. Sometimes it's just a few scratch notes of ideas for the week. It's very, very basic. I was actually going over some YouTube videos there. So I just like to prepare so that I know kind of what we should be making for the day. Go from there. So this is my sourdough starter right now, and you saw there were like 0 bubbles in there. It is not doing so hot right now. But I'm going to show you that if you do have a fairly active starter, it really can turn around pretty quickly. So I'm getting this fed so that I can make some pizza dough later on for lunch. My family's favorite food is pizza of any kind, especially my husband. So getting that ready so that I can make that later. There's our baked apple oatmeal. It's ready for everybody. But that sourdough pizza dough, we do the discards, but I decided not to do the discard pizzas today and just went for the regular pizza dough recipe that we love. You'll see there is a little bit of a difference in texture, but it does taste delicious still. And we decided to get out after breakfast. I was blessed with a little membership for some hot and fun beverages at Panera by my dad. So I was taking advantage of that before we headed to the park. Little guys, I adore the park anytime we can go. And wow, with this weather, it was just calling our name. So we just had some fun there. Enjoyed ourselves. And part of our day off adventures were haircuts. What other boy mamas out there do haircuts? I would love to know in the comments, because I don't know how we would afford to not do haircuts from home. It's just an area we can save money on. My kids are little, they could care less. So we got those done with. It's always an adventure. And we had the sourdough, you could see there, it was all fed and happy. So I just got the pizza dough started. I normally, like I said earlier, would ferment this. Ideally do it the night before so it can ferment overnight, and then pop it in the fridge for a cold proof. But didn't have time for that today, and that's okay. It's still better than getting a pizza from the store or something. So we just utilized, basically, I mean, it was active sourdough starter, but we used it kind of more as a discard recipe. So got that going, and I'm going to try to utilize some of the things we have on hand and just get a pizza going. Something I would like to point out is that this is the day that my husband is home and can help with the kids, where I can actually have some time to enjoy making dinner or lunch. And this just doesn't normally happen on the days that he isn't there. So don't watch this video and think that, oh, this is normal and, this is how they live every day, because it's not. We have many a day where we eat sandwiches or peanut butter and jelly or whatever we can manage. A lot of days lunches are some yogurt and fruit parfaits. So just know this is more of a special day for us. And I just wanted to point out that you did not see that cookout drink in my hand, because we never eat out and we always cook from scratch. The day I recorded this was actually Halloween, and I went ahead and got out our vegetables because I wanted to enjoy the evening and not really have to be in the kitchen, but I also wanted to make something hearty and warm. So I decided on a soup, which is really just what we have a lot in the winter, and I don't hate it. It's always a change of flavors, even if we use similar things, just because of the different spices you use, and it just always feels good, especially with some fresh bread. So I got out those veggies so I could start chopping those up and just kind of get those going for later. You'll see I have a lot of bites of tomato. Those tomatoes that I'm using are from our garden, and sad story, the only tomatoes we've had from our garden. I got those in the ground way too late in the season, and the area that I have to grow things in just does not get that much sun. That's all there is to it. And I don't really at this time have a much better place to put them. So I figured, you know what, we'll put them in the ground, we'll try, and just keep at least learning some lessons while I don't maybe have the best garden set up, and learn what I can for when I do have a better garden set up. So we did get some delicious tomatoes, just not that many. And sadly, we have so many tomato blooms, and I think we would have gotten a decent bit of tomatoes, but probably not until about December. So those will not make it, but that's okay. And that's why you will see me munching on tomatoes many times throughout this video. Because they were just so flavorful. My goodness, I'm not as good about going to the farmer's market. Our farmer's market in our small town is not the best for price. They're pretty expensive, to be honest, especially compared to the stores. And we do have a budget, that we have to stick to. So that's just not a luxury we have right now. So I was really enjoying all the flavors that you just don't get from a store tomato. Today I'm doing a supreme type pizza. I just had some red onions, some mushrooms, and some pepperoni. And I threw bacon on that one for my husband. Made a cheese pizza for my kiddos, and then mine was so good. It was the same toppings except no pepperoni, and I did a lot of bacon and some mozzarella on top, and then those fresh tomatoes. It was so good. So definitely a keeper. I also used sweet date honey sauce. So my little boy wanted to grow a plant, and we got this little tiny starter plant. It's a Mexican sunflower from the farmer's market, and the guy said, put it in the ground, it'll get huge and he'll love it. And so we did. It has indeed gotten huge, and not disappointed. It is about 11 feet tall. And it just recently started blooming, and it is covered now. So we just got our first little bouquet. I told him frost was coming and we needed to get a bouquet while we could. I just enjoy those flowers a little bit more. So we did, and it made a beautiful little bouquet. So here I'm starting on my veggies. I am also Marco Poloing my sister. So I was a bit distracted. I really should have started with my meat in the Dutch oven like I normally do, but I was just chatting away and didn't even think about it. So I figured this out midway and just went ahead and finished up the veggies, softened them, and then put them in a container to the side while I browned up my meat and kept it all in there and added the broth to just kind of keep all those flavors in there. If you do not have a veggie chopper, I tell you what, I'm not much of a gadgety person, but this thing is completely worth it because I was about to cut all of that and I was thinking about how much time it was going to take, and I am all for cutting your stuff by hand. It can be very therapeutic, but when you are in a hurry and you literally just want the veggies chopped, the chopper is the best way. So I'll link the one that I have. There's many like that on Amazon for a great price. And to me, if you do a lot of scratch cooking, it's completely worth it if you have the space. And I have cut back on other things so that I have the space because that takes priority. I'm just throwing in the rest of the tomatoes that I had left over since they were already sliced, and just adding them into the soup as well. And I really honestly didn't have a plan for this soup. This my thoughts were like a hamburger type soup. See my kids over there have their costumes already on, just getting ready for the festivities later. So I was thinking like hamburger flavors and just trying to get it like a cowboy soup or whatever. There's many names for it. So I added some of the beef that I've mentioned in a past video. We got this beef from a farm that is 100% grass-fed, and it's just very lean meat. And we did it once with some hamburgers, some regular hamburger patties, and it just wasn't our favorite. It was a lot more lean than we're used to, and so I've started using it in soups. I feel like that's the best way to use this because it just really saturates it with the olive broth and just makes for a delicious beef. So that worked out. We use that for soups, and then our other beef we use for hamburgers. You'll see some of the seasonings I'm using there. The only one I think didn't show very well was the ground mustard. For me, the ground mustard is one of the crucial ingredients for making a hamburger flavored soup. So we did that. I added in some chopped kale because it just sounded good. And the only way we really eat a lot of greens is in soups where they can just really tenderize. I also added some salsa because why not? I didn't have that many tomatoes. I wanted more of a tomato flavor. Added some salsa. It was great. Added some good flavor and some ketchup. And then you'll see with my broth, my word, I do this probably almost every time. I've gotten so good about preparing my meats at the beginning of the week, putting them in the fridge in a container, and I just haven't gotten on board with the broth. I make the bone broth, I put the bone broth in the freezer, and I forget about it until I need it right then. So you'll see me shaking it out multiple times, and I stabbed it with a knife. I spared you guys that, but just broke it up and got it in there. It'll all work out. So I'm going to try to get in somewhat of a habit of getting that broth ready for the week as well and thawing in the fridge. I'm just getting cleaned up because dinner is basically ready. I'm just going to let it hang out on the stove. I went ahead and cleaned up and prepared for a yard sale we are having in a couple weeks, and scouring our entire home of things we don't want or need anymore. We're going to have a sale. So I did that during quiet time, and now it is time for our activities to begin. We're just going to be sitting out on the porch, hanging out, and enjoying giving out candy to little trick-or-treaters. We've got some leftover bread here. I wanted to do cheese in some capacity because it just felt right, but I didn't want to really shred it all for the soup. I just wanted the soup to kind of be ready-made. So I decided to slice these up, add some olive oil. I also added some salt and garlic powder, and then just put cheese on the top so you kind of have like open-faced grilled cheese. So I did that and then just added it to the side, and it was great. Made for good dipping bread because it was all toasty and just really absorbed a lot of the broth. So we topped this off with half and half, and it was ready to go. And I just made myself a little latte to go sit out on the porch and hand things out to the little trick-or-treaters. It was just a wonderful day, and I appreciate you coming along with me today and just seeing a little bit into our lives. And I hope you are being able to cherish these little fall moments if you have littles. And thank you for stopping by, guys. Have a good one.